Richard's retirement was heavily hinted at in Grey's Anatomy Season 20's ending, but Season 21, Episodes 1 and 2's developments revealed another major impending crisis, one Richard cannot see clearly because of his focus on retiring. The Seattle wildfires of Season 20's finale caused Grey Sloan Memorial to ask for all hands on deck, prompting Richard to lead a difficult emergency surgery even if a few days before he would have avoided the OR. Richard involving Yasuda and Millen in the repair made Ndugu think the intern's mistake killed the patient, but it was later revealed the mistake was Richard's. Richard coming clean with Winston Ndugu about his mistake in the OR in Grey's Anatomy Season 20 reintroduced Richard's retirement story, despite various Grey's Anatomy surgeons making plenty of mistakes through the years that killed patients. However, Richard was determined to view his mistake as a damning one that should have ended his career, only due to his age. This prompted Winston to push Richard to be in the OR with him, as he wanted to show Richard that he could still operate on patients and it wasn't his time to retire if it wasn't Richard's wish to do so. Grey's Anatomy Season 21, Episode 2 hints Richard's surgical skills aren't his biggest problem. Ndugu's behavior establishes how only Richard doubts his surgical skills. Grey's Anatomy Season 21's premiere finally turned the tide on Richard's confidence in the OR. While Richard spent Grey's Anatomy Season 21, Episode 1 hesitant to be in the OR and operate on the patient, his approach proved fundamental to saving him. Indeed, had Richard not been in the OR with Winston, he wouldn't have realized how to approach the bleeding, proving Richard's expertise as the thing that made it possible for Winston to save the patient in the end. While Richard was in his head, worrying about his supposedly declining skills, Winston wanted to learn from him. Grey's Anatomy Season 21, Episode 2 possibly convinced Richard that Winston told the truth. Indeed, playing golf with Lucas and Winston and winning, only to have the energy to play some more, made it evident Winston was right when he saw Richard's endurance and concentration as unmatched. While Richard didn't exactly show interest in returning to the OR in Grey's Anatomy Season 21, Episode 2's ending, he gave Teddy back her job as chief, hinting at his choice to free his schedule having to do with a potential return to the OR. Richard's focus being on his worries about retirement let him miss what was going on in Catherine's life. While his newfound clarity in Grey's Anatomy Season 21, Episode 2 moved his attention back to his wife's silence, prompting him to involve her in his singing because of his good mood, Richard still didn't know Catherine's secret. Although Grey's Anatomy Season 20's ending introduced Richard's retirement as his next major crisis, Season 21's premiere revealed his next major hurdle involved Catherine's worsening condition and her refusal to tell him about it. Catherine collapsing in front of Meredith in Grey's Anatomy Season 21's premiere was already indicative of something bad, but the tests Meredith had Catherine undergo only confirmed how her death might be impending. Catherine seemed resigned to it, and sure she didn't want to let her loved ones know about it, effectively making Richard's biggest problem the potential death of his wife and his unpreparedness for it, as Catherine is set on keeping her liver problems private in Grey's Anatomy Season 21. Season 21 of Grey's Anatomy is expected to deliver more than the usual blend of medical drama and personal turmoil. As one of the longest-standing characters, Richard Webber, James Pickens Jr., has been the heart and soul of Grey Sloan for decades. His mentorship, guidance, and unrelenting passion for the medical profession have shaped the careers of almost every character in the show, including Meredith Grey and Miranda Bailey. But as Richard steps back from surgery, ostensibly to enjoy a peaceful retirement, cracks begin to show. What starts as a heartwarming goodbye to a legend quickly unravels into something much darker. The early signs of a bigger problem. From the first episode of Season 21, Richard's retirement plan seems too perfect, especially for a show like Grey's Anatomy. He announces his decision to the hospital staff with a bittersweet speech, filled with hope for his future but weighed down by the heavy legacy he's leaving behind. It's a moment of reflection and optimism for Richard, but there's an underlying tension. The hospital feels different without him, and there's a palpable sense of loss, but also something unspoken, a shadow lurking behind the scenes. As the new chief of surgery, Miranda Bailey, Chandra Wilson, takes over, but she's dealing with her own crises, including a recent health scare and the overwhelming pressures of running a hospital during an increasingly difficult healthcare environment. She's struggling to keep up, and without Richard as her trusted advisor, it's becoming clear that something is very wrong behind the scenes. Rumors of budget cuts, staff shortages, and behind-the-scenes politics start to bubble to the surface. Hospital board meetings turn tense, and it's revealed that Grace Sloan Memorial is in far more financial trouble than anyone expected. Richard's departure was perfectly timed, too perfectly. As Miranda digs deeper into the hospital's financial situation, she realizes that Richard had been hiding the extent of the crisis for months, if not years. Richard's secret dealings. In a shocking twist, it's revealed that Richard had been quietly negotiating with private investors in a last-ditch effort to keep the hospital afloat. While his intentions were noble, aiming to preserve the hospital's independence and ensure its survival, the deals he struck with these investors were more dangerous than he realized. As these agreements start to unravel, Grace Sloan finds itself teetering on the edge of a corporate takeover, with dire consequences for the hospital's future. The situation worsens when the investors, who turn out to be connected to one of the largest private healthcare conglomerates in the country, begin to make their move. They want to restructure Grace Sloan into a profit-driven institution, cutting corners and slashing costs at the expense of patient care. Doctors are forced to confront impossible ethical dilemmas, and tensions within the hospital rise to a boiling point. A divided hospital. Richard's absence leaves a leadership vacuum that no one can seem to fill. Bailey, burdened by her own personal crises, struggles to maintain control. Meanwhile, Maggie Pierce, Kelly McCreary, Amelia Shepard, Katerina Scorsone, and Winston Dugu, Anthony Hill, find themselves at odds over how to handle the situation. Maggie wants to fight the investors, while Winston considers their proposals to be necessary for the hospital's survival. Amelia, still dealing with the emotional fallout of recent personal losses, is torn between her loyalty to her colleagues and the need to protect her own mental health. This internal division is further exacerbated when a group of younger doctors, including Levi Schmidt, Jake Borelli, and Joe Wilson, Camilla Luddington, begin organizing protests, refusing to stand by as the hospital,